taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. Sorry about that. I unmuted Sybe instead of unmuting myself. That's embarrassing. I'm a professional podcaster. It is February 8th, 2019. This is the Friday edition of the show. I love the Friday edition of the show. It just seems more relaxed. There seems to be lots of interaction, lots of excitement for the weekend. Plus, there's always tons of news that drops right before the weekend. So, yeah, it's exciting. My name is Asheninity, and I'm here as always with Sybe Obsidian. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I was going into this like pretty happy, but the last like 2 days have like really soured my mood. So I wasn't planning on doing a rant today, but I'm probably going to get into one here because this is really starting to irk me. So yeah. And
well, we have tons to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Outer Worlds, of course, as our sort of cover story for today, but we also have stuff to talk about with EA. We have stuff to talk about with Division 2 because Obsidian was in on the beta for that. Plus, there's a bunch of other news that Sybe was just sending me before we started that I haven't even looked at yet. So, yeah, lots to talk about today. Hope y'all stick around. Glad to see everybody chatting in the live chat. If you're listening live today, of course, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. I'm actually going to start off today by reading some of the comments that were posted on Sybe's rant that we posted on our YouTube channel. We clipped it out from the last podcast and posted it there. There were some interesting comments. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But hello, Whisper803, Mr. French86, Katriox, Rave, Overlord 580, Droblet, Notional, playing Apex, and Bluntman. Playing Apex is not a name. That's Notional says he's playing Apex. So, interesting. You'll have to give us your impressions on that.
that's going to be part of my rant today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, and I have to word this very carefully because I don't want to step on I don't want to step on the fans' toes, but there's a situation that's brewing with Apex and EA that is not good at all, and people should be aware of it. At least be aware of it, and then we can kind of move forward from there.
Right. Anyway, I'm just bringing up the comments from the rant that... on Tuesday, we talked about Fallout 76, their decision to go beyond simply cosmetic microtransactions, and Sybe went on a bit of a rant that it's been brewing for a while. It's something we've been talking about for a while, getting into on the channel, just like what the deal was with Fallout 76, why some of the frustrations with it, how it could have been better, why this could potentially be good for Bethesda in the long run, but where they really fell flat. But anyway, some great comments on that rant. So I'm going to get into some of those right here. I just wanted to read some of them. Joking Juggernaut says, optional co-op is fine, but multiplayer is cancer to gaming. Change my mind. Ooh. And then there was a response to that says, I'm not even willing to play devil's advocate on that one. So that tells you where some of the mindset is on that. Findo says, could have, should have. The game is out and it's crap. How do we fix it? And I think we got a little bit into that. But...
I didn't get into it as much as I would like to. So is the game totally trash and will it always be totally trash? There are some core problems that will kind of will be there for a long time and may be there forever. However, there's also this strong possibility that we might see the community come in and really fix this game. There is a possibility. I will admit that the chance for that is it grows smaller every day that they make these huge mistakes. And there's a lot of modders out there who are like, okay, why would we want to fix a game that nobody's playing at all? So there's versus like just continuing to build on the work that they're doing for Fallout 4. Now the good news is that Fallout 4 and 76 are pretty interchangeable for mods. That means that if you build a mod for Fallout 4, there's a good chance that you can port that mod over with some minor alterations over to 76, especially once they open up modding. So basically, you'll and they put out the tools for it. If they do that, then basically what you're going to have is you're going to have the ability for people to basically port in their work from Fallout 4, tweak it a little bit, and then pop it over into 76. Now there is some other issues there, and altogether this means that the community is really going to have to save this game. If they want this game to survive, the community is going to have to step in. Is the community up for the challenge, though? That's the big question. And I have learned not to ever discount what the community wants to do. The community is capable at doing pretty much anything with the Bethesda game engine. It's better than any other game out there, period. There is no video game that's moddable right now that has a more flexible, that has a more open system, that has been supported by as big of a community as the Bethesda engines have been. This really boils down to what they have been doing and how they've created their games and the way that they've created that general concept and made it work. And it's a good thing to see. So it's a really good thing to see, and I'm really happy to see the general direction on that improve and continue to grow. So yeah, so we'll see how the community reacts to this, but overall, it's like this will take some time, but it can be done.
I would argue that the community shouldn't have to, but I mean, I guess
of course not.
We're getting beyond that question, of course, but the community should be building things like the amazing expansive mods that they are putting out for Fallout 4 and for Fallout New Vegas, except stuff like that. Building on a good product is what should be happening, as opposed to fixing the product. That has always bugged me. Yeah, well, and the thing with that is that of course we shouldn't be expected to do that, and of course, Bethesda should have brought in their community much earlier. Like, how this was never thought of, why this was never thought of, it's horrifying to me. And we've talked about this before. We talked about this with Caliente's work. In the base game, their human models, their player models for Fallout 4 are so bad, are so atrocious that A, they look horrendous. B, the textures aren't even optimized. So that when you install, there's a certain type. You of course you can install the whole package, but if you install one of the smaller things and you just go to basically improve general skins, that actually creates a performance increase. Even though there's, in some cases, it's 4K versus not even close to half that. Wow. So you higher resolution textures from a modder. Yeah. Are actually more efficient. That run better. Yeah. And she was able to do that. Not only that, there were people who did this for because the textures in the entire game were all screwed up like this. The land textures, the tile textures. There's a bunch of mods out there that markedly show a massive increase because they just optimize it better. And in some cases, they increased the resolution, or they increased the appearance of the resolution, and managed to downgrade the graphic size so that it could load faster and all this stuff. And it's like, how are these people not working for Bethesda? How is it that Bethesda sees these mods come out, sees that 5-6 million people download these mods, and go, we should really get this person in here, at least on a contractual basis. Bring them in 6 months before the game goes out to see what they can improve. Because I get that it's not cost effective in their eyes, in some cases, to improve rock graphics, or to improve the base mesh of a human, when they can be spending those resources on something else, right? And they have a deadline and stuff like that. But again, it's like, or you could just contract these people in
you know, say, how much would you like to be paid for something that you're already doing? You can, you know, we're not going to tell you what you can or cannot do post-release. Like, if you want to tweak something and mod it in, go ahead. But, you know, and that's where the whole modding thing comes from. And, yeah, anyways. I don't want to get too much into it because we did before, but basically it's like the community will save this game if they want to. If they don't want to, then what will happen is I'll have this long, slow death. But I suspect that we will have a big boost once they introduce private servers. Now, that is when I am planning to go back. That is when we are planning to go back hard. We will go back. We will have a server. We'll probably rank up the difficulty on it quite a bit. We'll probably turn on as many special rules as we can. We might do a couple other things. We might have two, one for PvP and then one for not PvP, and then we will keep that up, you know, as often, as much as people are interested in playing it, as much as we hold our interest. And we're going to mod the crap out of those things. So, yeah, so that is our plan going forward, and I suspect that's where the game will really take off. If you look back to some of the games that have done this, private servers are where private servers and these long fixes kind of save the game post launch. And I mean, you look at No Man's Sky, which I did play again. I installed it to play it for about 5 hours so that I could get an idea of where a game that was the worst released game in history that had managed to not be canceled after a year. So this was arguably the worst launch that has ever happened in video game history, that has managed to actually like still be up a year later. Actually, I think it's more than a year later now. And so I went back to it, played around with it, messed around with it, and I was like, yeah, this is generally far more better improved. Clearly, they must, you know, they care about the game. If the same thing can happen with 76, then yes, I can see 76 being good to play. Now, whether or not the community is willing to forgive and forget and to move on, or, and here's the big other if, is Bethesda even interested in this? This has been a point that some people have raised, and I have to agree that it's plausible. The general concept is that they were never really going to support 76 very much. They were going to offer some band-aid fixes and then just really let the thing die, so to speak, with general usage and popularity, because they want more people playing Starfield when it comes out, because it's due to come out either this fall or next year. And, you know, why would they try to have two games running at the same time with the same kind of thing-ish? That's what people who are really, really, and who have justifiably, I think, have become very negative about Bethesda think. They think that this is something that was planned. And you can get paranoid when you start to think like that, and the paranoia will seep in and will start to, will really start to try and change the way that you approach this kind of stuff. And I have to look at that and say, for the most part, this is not necessarily true. Because I don't think any developer, with the exception of EA and a handful of other companies, actually go out of their way to make a bad game, to make the game fail for a particular reason. I just don't think that's a thing.
Maybe not, but I mean, there's a few other comments here that are talking about how they were just trying to exploit the community.
Yes,
it's just a Fallout 4 asset flip. It was just a cash grab.
Yes, and I do think it was that, but I don't think that they intentionally made the game to fail before their next game came out. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
okay, yeah,
it's like, I don't think they set out to plan the game to be a complete failure just cause. Was it an asset flip? Yes, it was. Was it overpriced? Immensely so, to the point of them to them it was just a cash cow? Absolutely. And that's where we have to hammer them on this, because this is unacceptable. This is where we have to look at them and say, what what were you thinking? Why do you think that this was okay?
Yeah.
This was absolutely unacceptable, period. And yeah, and that's the general thought. So yes, it was definitely a cash cow. Did they plan it to absolutely bomb? No, nobody really does that. But I think they thought that, and again, I have to reiterate this: it wasn't even their buggiest game they put out. A lot of people have these, which is why I think this won't affect them like 5 years from now. 5 years from now, people will look back at 76 and go, "Yeah, that was a bump in the road." For them, I honestly believe this.
If they,
and why?
If they course
why?
correct,
Because
if they course correct, then I would agree.
yeah, why? Because 8 years ago, when Skyrim came out, day one patch, you couldn't finish the game because of all of the bugs in the game. You could not receive the entirety of the content delivered to you because the bugs were so enormous that nothing could work. Period.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is a lot of people forget this, and a lot of people look back on it and go, it wasn't that bad. Yes, it was. It was worse than 76 by far. 76, at least you could play the darn thing. Yeah, there were bugs and there were T-poses, but I mean, I remember being chased by frozen T-pose spiders on day one of Skyrim. And I mean, I still have nightmares about the T-pose spiders. You know, spiders that don't move. They're just like floating as they chase you and rush you. It's like, you know, it's that kind of stuff happened, and people forget about it. So I think overall, in the end, people will forget about this, especially if the next two games kind of smash it out of the park. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people who are, and that's why hate clicks. That's why we don't do the hate clicks, because it's like, I don't see time the way that most people see time, and so it becomes even more hypocritical to me when I see people kind of fall into this hate click stuff, because I know that they're going to be, if the next game is remarkable, they'll be out there singing the praises and saying that, you know, how, and they'll try to take, you know, credit for it too. Like, it was because of the pressure that we put on them that this game is, no, this game was always going to be like this. The next one was always going to be this way better thing. You know, they're not morons. They're not terrible people who are intentionally going out of their way to make a horrendous game. They are, you know, they just made a mistake once. They let the greed get to them. They made a couple of bad decisions. They didn't double check their sources. They did what they've done before. You know, and that's the kind of thing. As far as I understand, Pete Hines is kind of taking a bit of a break. He's been a little stressed out, so he's just not posting to Twitter. He is still liking, retweeting, and doing a bunch of other stuff. He might be off on a vacation. I don't have confirmation on that for sure. Yeah, so it's
yeah, but yeah, that's a question a lot of people have been asking. Blind Man Mark, where is Todd? Where is Pete Hines?
Blind Man makes a good point, and I'm going to say something here that's going to get me in trouble. Blind Man, you're absolutely right. The game, to me, I'm not playing the game because I don't like the game. The gameplay is still good. I have an annoyance when, you know, some 250 level guy runs out of nowhere and one-shots me, even through like the peace shield. That's dumb. But as far as the game goes, I had a blast playing it. It was not as it was bad, okay, but it's not. It was not something that I didn't want to play. The only thing that made it so that I didn't want to play it is that when I got haters, you know, I streamed it like once and tons of people showed up to just insult me nonstop as to why I was playing a crap game. And it's like it, you know, and they sit there and they downvote like crazy. And that's the problem, is that, that they suck the fun out of it. And again, it's like, Bethesda could have fixed that. Again, this is not as bad as the buggiest releases that have happened in the past. I would say Skyrim was one of their worst games they ever put out. Initially, after the bugs and
bugs,
after
yeah.
the patches and after the DLCs and after the expansions, yes, it's 100% better. After the mods, of course, after the mods, it's the best game there is. Was it the best game at launch? No, it was one of the worst games at launch. But that's not the thing that happens with these games, and so that's what turned me off from it was the negativity from everybody. I had other YouTubers message me and say, "Hey, you better stop playing this game, or we're just going to cut off contact from you completely." It's like, what? Why? I mean, Mad Queen had this happen too. She had a friend, a professional friend, unfriend her and then remove her from contacts and put her on ignore because she said that she was having fun playing 76. Not that you should have fun playing 76, that she was having fun playing 76, and therefore, oh, it's time to cut off a communication. And it's like, okay, I understand the vitriol, the hatred, the frustration. I understand that, but doing that is going a little too far. Now, this is a great segue for our next thing, which is EA. EA.
Sorry, one quick final note before you jump into EA there. One final comment I wanted to read here was from Andrew, who says, "Glad that a channel of this caliber made this video. Hopefully it reaches a few people at Bethesda, and there might be some hope for the next Fallout." And what I wanted to say is, if you agree with that, like if you really appreciated what Saib said in that video, go ahead and tweet it at people at Bethesda. And, that can be... we don't mind that at all if you want to use that as if you agree with what he said and you want to use that as a way to try and get the message to the people about where the people at Bethesda, about where the community's at, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm not even asking for that for our benefit, but for as a voice for the community, if you feel that it reflects where you stand on the issue. Go ahead and do that. So anyway, yeah, so EA.
So yeah, EA is in a remarkably similar kind of situation where this with the way that the community is reacting to this, but they're gaining all the benefit from it and none of the negative. And this is something that's very concerning to me, extremely so. All right, so let's hammer down on this here. So EA came out a couple of years ago, said single player doesn't exist anymore. It's not something that makes us money. Nobody likes single player. Nobody plays single player. All people want is microtransactions and multiplayer. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to make microtransactions and multiplayer. And the community hit back on them hard and slammed them, and they had, loss after loss after loss after loss after loss. And now they have, they got absolutely hammered so much to the point where the other day after their earnings report, they fell down to $76 US for their stock price, which is almost as low as they've ever been. They were down to 74 back in December. That was kind of the worst fall, and they had kind of gotten back to that point, which was huge. And they haven't been down that low since early 2016. Okay? Now, in the last few days, though, their stock has been ticking up and up and up and up and up and up, and it's been recovering. So they were down at 76 bucks at their lowest point. Now they're up to $95 in the last 2 days. Why? Because Apex has proven them all right. Congratulations. Yay. What we've proven with Apex is that A, people don't want a single player campaign because single player is dumb and nobody plays it. And B, all they want is a heavy loot box based game that's only based in multiplayer. Yay! I'm really pissed off about this. Why? Because I don't understand. Like, I understand that Respawn made a good game, that gameplay is solid, okay? The same can be said for Anthem. The gameplay is solid. It's everything else that sucks about the game. And people are now heaping rewards on them, and their stock price is recovering. And they're saying this proves us completely right that Battlefield 5 failed because of the single player and because of the lack of microtransactions. That's why it failed, and they're now using this as a way to state how they're going to fix it going forward. So they're going to fix the company by going forward by getting rid of as much of the single player story content as possible, and investing heavily in these multiplayer microtransaction games, because the audience just proved to them that, hey, that's all they want. Because Apex came out, that is a heavily abusive loot box based game that is entirely tied to that, which is dumb. Because I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult you guys, the gamers. I am confused as to why anybody would buy any loot box in general to get a customized, to get a suit of armor, a skin for your character that you don't even see while you're playing the game. You see it for like the 5 seconds that you jump out of the plane, and then as soon as you land, that's it. You don't ever see your character again. Why this is, I just don't, I don't understand that. But that's me, and that's a minor issue. That's just my personal preference. I never understood why people collect skins for first-person games. It just doesn't. It never made any sense to me. The Overwatch didn't make sense to me. But overall, it's like the community is sitting there saying we disagree. And since Apex came out, they're up well over 14%. So they've recovered everything that they've lost in the last month. And if they stay on this trend, they're going to end up recovering everything that they've lost since October. It's like, wow, that's great, awesome. We like, really, this is what we have to look forward to now. Is we're going to get more loot box heavy games, more games that feature and focus on nothing but loot boxes, and more multiplayer only games with a fleeting attention to multiplayer. It's like, great, awesome. Now I understand that the studio, that Respawn is a good studio. They're good players, they're good game makers. They're good developers. They make good games. They were never given a chance properly with, they were put out the door way too early in the first game. Titanfall 2, they were shoved out the door in one of the busiest, most crowded times possible, with, again, a game that wasn't quite polished. And so they've really gotten the butt end of the stick twice in a row, and that sucks. But they're good developers, and they really are. They're really good. Like, they know how to make a good game. But the cost of this now is, you're never getting a Titanfall 3 in the next, 5 to 6 years. Or 5 to 10 years. You're really not getting that. You're really not going to be getting anything other than this renewed statement from EA for the next, probably, because again, Anthem's going to do well. Why? Because the gameplay is half solid. But what we're going to see is sometime during the summer, they're going to announce, they're going to be talking about how Apex is now their, cherished property, and how Anthem is doing really well, and all this comes at proving that they were right, that nobody wants single player, and that nobody wants, that everybody wants loot boxes. Because look at how many people have scrambled towards the loot box. Even people who said that loot boxes were terrible are now being caught. Like, was it Ninja or somebody got caught? One of the big streamers got caught. He has, he has two accounts. He has his account that he streams with, and then he has his private account, right? Well, the account that he streamed with, he accidentally logged into his other account, his private account, and the dude has spent well over 400 or 500 pounds, which is it's like 700-800. It's almost $1,000 on skins, on loot boxes, not on loot boxes in general. And again, I can't remember who it was exactly, but it was kind of like, some people were laughing at him. To me, that's scary, because it's like so somebody who said before, how loot boxes are not good, and they're blight on the community. Well, they've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this game in the first 2 days. This was in like the first 2 days. It's like I spent probably about $500 on a game before, but that was over the course of about 2 years. I mean, I know that I've spent probably like a couple $100 on WoW, because I was playing WoW for like the first 6 years of it pretty heavily. Don't really that much anymore, but it's like dumping almost $1,000 into it in the first 2 days. I mean, yeah, he's pretty well off, and I'm sure that's not, I'm sure that's peanuts to him, and that's fine. But it's just like, that's who they're making the game for, and now they've just gotten this big confirmation that this is the way that the industry wants them to go. Now, this is a temporary thing, because ultimately it's a fad, and that system is not going to last forever, and they're probably going to double down on this, and they're probably going to release a whole bunch more games that are basically the exact same thing within the next couple of years. And of course that will just compound their failure, and it will make them fail even larger now. But it will, instead of like, taking out bits and pieces of EA, it's going to take out the whole company now. It's like, great. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And, Rave says, I don't understand EA. Can't we have both good single-player and multiplayer games? And, I mean, in theory, we can. But who are they trying to appease? Who are they trying to sell these games to? They're no longer trying to sell them to us. They're trying to sell them to their stockholders. And as some added context for this, in their Q3 earnings call, which took place on February 5th, so Tuesday. The Andrew Wilson, the CEO, basically said that he talked about how Battlefield 5 was performing well below expectations, and they're straight up blaming this decision on the decision, or this performance on the decision to prioritize the single player experience over a battle royale mode.
Yeah.
And they also sort of blamed it on how it was delayed into the competitive holiday season, etc., etc. Blaming it basically on everything except for what gamers were actually criticizing it for. And that's incredibly tone deaf, but also, but this is how they're selling this to their stockholders. And so, of course, what are the stockholders going to want to see in their coming games now? In order to make a profit, they'll want everything multiplayer, they'll want everything battle royale, they'll want everything laden with microtransactions, because they don't care about the gaming experience. That's not what they're in it for. So,
yeah, and it's just we're going. We were hoping that we were going to get an EA that was going to look at themselves, take a deep look, and make decisions to become better. Ultimately, that's what we were hoping for, or that the company would just crash and burn. We're not going to get either of those things now. Instead, all we're going to get for the next 4 or 5 more years, which is probably going to affect the next Mass Effect and the next Dragon Age game heavily, is that it's going to be really light on the story and basically really heavy on the microtransactions and the crappy flavor of the week multiplayer, because again, Apex has proven that that's what people want. And it's just sad, because this is going to impact the company, and this is going to impact tons of people's lives. If they were forced to deal with the concept that they weren't making good games, that's one thing. But now all they've proven is that, oh hey, you know what, this whole Overwatch thing, this whole heavy transaction loot box thing, it actually works. You just have to come up with the right game. That's all. You just got to come up with the right thing, the right feel, the right dopamine hit for doing all this stuff, and get people really used to, because you see it now. You get a free loot box every time you level up, and every time I level up I get a free loot box, and and again, people are sitting there, and I'm watching these streamers and these people and these YouTubers who are going, yeah, loot boxes are terrible, but you know, they give you a free one, and it's really cool when you open it. Oh, I got this, I got this, I got this. It's conditioning you so that once you hit, like, you know, once you're in 30, 40, 50 more hours, and you're really up there, and you're not getting those loot boxes that commonly, you're going to really start looking at those loot boxes. Your mouth is going to start watering. You're going to go, oh, man. It's just, I want that hit again. I want that dopamine hit. So, the game is good. I spent $20 on it a couple weeks ago. That's fine. Maybe, I'll drop $70 on it. That's okay.
And then it hooks you in. It's addicting.
A couple weeks later,
it is legitimately addicting. It's based off the entire, the whole concept of intermittent rewards as reinforcement, because you don't get one every time, and it's been proven.
Yeah,
long time ago. Psychological experiments basically proved intermittent rewards are far more work far better than consistent rewards. You give your
It's why hunting is that's part of our evolution. It's part of the core of the human experience has been this hit that happens again and again and again, and it's based on survival. It's like if you're trying to survive out in the wild and you have a small tribe or or just your family or whatever, it's that constant hit of like the dopamine rush of when you manage to get a kill and you're victorious and you come home and you bring it home and you're praised by everybody. You just saved the village again for the next couple of weeks and you feast and it's that's part of survival, right? But in this particular case, this is not survival. This is just hooking you in for the next hit.
It's just using that same sort of mechanism of your brain to hook you in to spending money on a game. That'll addict anybody, literally anybody. Nobody's exempt. So yeah, this is it's really a predatory practice, and so that's why we have that's why we have a big problem with this. Like Apex, we've heard the gameplay is actually really great, but we have a big issue with the loot boxes. Not with microtransactions across the board, but loot boxes. I mean, that's right, Mark. It's deliberately designed to be addictive, and when you've got something like that, you've really got to question.
Yes.
I mean, we can't support that. We just can't support that.
I went to. I'm not very much of a gambler, but when I went to a casino once, they gave me like 50 free spins on one of these whatever they call them.
The slot machines there?
Slot machines, yeah. They give me 50 free spins on a slot machine. And I was like, 50 free spins? Oh, all right. But you had to play through all your 50, and then you get to keep whatever you had gotten out of it. And I got about $20 out of it. But boy, I gotta say, I was really tempted to put that $20 back into it and keep spinning. And the whole time I was in Vegas that week, constantly it was at the back of my mind. You won $20. It was $20 up ahead. Even if you'd put in that $20, you would have gotten that back. Maybe you should go do it again. And that it's designed to be exactly that. And to see so many people fall for it again is really sad and disturbing. I understand the gameplay is good, but why we're rewarding? Oh, just don't buy it. They're conditioning you to buy it. This is designed from the bottom up. They have psychologists. They have addictive experts designing this exactly how
using
the
their powers for
hits
evil,
you,
basically.
When you get the next reward, how it feels when you get the reward, and you think this is just the beginning that oh no there's only like a few champions out. It's like wait until there's a roster of 40 champions, right? Wait until there's hello puppies, they're so happy. Wait until there's this reward system that has been built in and just heavily in existence there, and it's like just wait. Because I guarantee a lot of people who are saying, oh no, it's totally fine, I'm never going to buy anything, it's free to play, I'm just going to be able to unlock everything as I go along. I guarantee you, You look at their account in 2 years from now, I'll bet you they spent probably, on the average player will probably have spent well over $100 on this game. And that other people who are, who are a little bit more inclined to this, they'll have spent around anywhere between $500 to $1,000, and then the whales out there, they'll have spent as much money as they possibly can. So as much money as they have the ability to spend on to buy stuff is how much money they will put into this.
Rave says, I suck at FPS games, so when I played Apex Legends yesterday, I was getting some kills. Maybe it was rigged to make me like the game. Would not surprise me in the least.
There's lots of kids who are really bad at the game. Like,
that could be, but I'm just saying.
I've played enough.
We know that games or that game companies, some of them are looking at this kind of technology and patenting this kind of technology that matches you up with people in such a way, or manipulates your gameplay in such a way so as to steer you towards wanting to put money into microtransactions and buying those loot boxes. So that would not surprise me at all. I hope not, but at this point, I have no confidence that they wouldn't do that. So that could very well be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, since we're on the topic of EA, we might as well talk about Anthem. There was some new Anthem news.
So we've got, basically, from some inside stuff, I've got a confirmation that we're going to get a raid sometime after the summer. That'll probably be their big E3 event. That they'll talk about it. They'll showcase the raid. They'll probably do like a live play of it. Or at least have like a team of people get up and try and play through the final boss or something on it. That's what they've done before, and it's pretty obvious that's where they're going to really talk it up big. There is a ton of weapons. There's the weapons that you saw in the beta were not all of the weapons. Each field has anywhere between 4 to in some cases 8 or 9 weapons. And they have a ton of weapons en route. So they've got a bunch of alien type weapons, like, weapons that you don't regularly have, like beam weapons, some pulse weapons, some other stuff, some sticky weapons, tons and tons of stuff that they've been working on and that they're going to be slowly adding. So the content in there is really, really big, and there's tons of content planned for the future. And this is good. I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna play it a fair bit. I was playing Division yesterday, and with Division, it was like Division was okay-ish. It's really, really buggy, and every 15 minutes I was getting crashed out, which I did not enjoy at all. But overall, I'd say between the two, I probably lean more towards Anthem, because I was pinned this one time between like 2 groups who randomly spawned at the same time from 2 different directions. And I was like, gee, I really want to just jump and like fly out of here. But I couldn't do that. Instead, I got killed because because of funsies. You're a lot more squishier in that game than you were in the original one, I think. Or, I don't know, maybe that's just my feeling. And again, there is some cardboard and some 2mm thick fabric in that game that I don't understand why people aren't just like tearing that stuff off and wearing that stuff as armor, because holy crap,
takes a lot of abuse.
There was a flag, a flag flapping in the wind that was impenetrable, could not get, just could not be shot through. There was a grenade thrown up against it. There were, shotgun, sniper rifles, just nothing, man. I'm telling you, I don't know what they're making those flags out of, but sheesh. Why people aren't running around with that kind of stuff for body armor, I will never know. Joking aside, it's a cover-based shooter, and I realized that I wasn't as much of a fan of cover-based shooting as I was 2 years ago. Not that the original game was great. There was lots of problems, lots of bugs, and lots of lots of cheating problems with that game. That's what made me stop playing the original. But overall, I think they're both half decent, and I'm gonna give both a chance, and we'll probably make some general guides and stuff for both of them and see where we're at. But I think Anthem overall, probably out of the two of those things, is the better. I'll be really interested to see what kind of new frames that they're putting out, and then if they keep their promise with the microtransactions and the economy and stuff like that in the game. As long as they don't introduce loot boxes, I'm okay. As soon as they introduce loot boxes, I'm out of here. I mean, it's... Yeah, vibranium flags. I know. I don't know why people don't wear this crap stuff on them. Yeah, so overall, it's like the game is... Anthem is looking better and better. It still has some potentially large problems there. I do like that, like I bought the standard version. I'm not feeding into any of their BS. I will have to buy the just so that we can get ahead on it and make as many videos as we can for it. I do not support what they've done with the way that they're doing the EA access and all this garbage, and we talked about that last week. It's just shady. It's just gross. It's disgusting. I feel like I need a shower every time I look at that stuff. Every time some of these things pop up on my on my news alerts, it's like I feel.
You mean staring at those charts doesn't make you feel good about your gaming experience? It doesn't give you that sense of pride and accomplishment?
No. What gives me a sense of pride and accomplishment is where, like, and I used to do this in League quite a bit. I love playing League. I love playing like the clutch person. Being and jungle was really fun. Jungle's not always. Sometimes it was top lane. Sometimes it was middle lane. So, I mean, it varies every game. It varies every season. But that clutch where, you come out of, having not really done very much. You got like maybe one gank or whatever, and it's like 8 minutes in. Your team's not doing good. There's a big push, and then you come in and like just slaughter the other team, and then like just dominate for the rest of the game. That's the stuff that I love, and it's so rare that you get that these days in a lot of games. It's just I don't know what it is. It's something I have to put some more thought into. Is why the feelings of grandeur, and we're going to see that with them launching Classic WoW this year. There might be. It's good. That's going to be a really interesting case study. I'm not advertising the game. I think it's going to be a terrible idea. But overall, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what aspects of Classic are just rose-colored glasses versus, what's actually like good. So it'll be interesting. Plus, I'm hearing that they're going to have an LFG tool in the game, and if that's the case, then the game is going to flop for sure, because the original WoW was built on community. It wasn't built on features. The community is what made that game what it was. The fact that you had to get to know people, that you had to, and that's for the most part where most games come from. If it has a stronger community, it'll last a lot longer. So, anyways, it'll be interesting to see kind of tie-in from EA and Blizzard. Blizzard has its announcement to make on Tuesday. I think it's this coming Tuesday for their quarterly reports, and their stock has already been suffering a bit of a loss, a fair big loss since Monday as well, or sorry, since Tuesday. So Tuesday, EA got hit hard, but then EA had launched Apex that week too, and so they've recovered everything that they've lost. Blizzard, not so much. Now, they haven't reported their losses, but they took a huge dip. They went from trading at 47 for almost $48 to trading at their lowest point was $42. That was a massive loss, and they have only recovered back up to $43. So if they put out their earnings report and they're down by a significant amount again, we're going to see a huge bomb for them as well. We're going to see them potentially lose another 10 to 12% easily easily since since that original date. We could see that again. So Blizzard is in far more of a tentative spot. Now they say they have a secret thing at their disposal, and that's Classic WoW. They're expecting to get I think they're expecting to get 3 to 4 million people to resub to WoW to get into Classic WoW in the first month. All right, so if they hit anywhere near that, it'll start to look up for them, and they'll start to recover a little bit. So again, it's like how far, how much is this going to, what's going to happen here? How is this going to affect the community overall? So we'll see how that goes. We'll also see how, EA does with Apex. It's pretty clear that Apex is doing pretty well, and how this will affect them long term, we'll see. So, it's so much fun. We've got so much to kind of keep our eyes on.
Yeah. You are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. By the way, if you haven't already, please slam that like button, likes it rough, just to tell us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. We do 2 podcasts a week, really try to bring the good content for you. And if you have stuff you want us to discuss, you can let us know in the content requests channel on our Discord server. We also see some questions coming up in the chat. Someone's asking about System Shock 3. Do we have any updates on that?
Still no updates that I'm aware of.
I think they're doing a pretty good job of updating everybody on the, whatever crowdfunding they're using. So that's probably the best place to check for news on that. We haven't been looking at it. It's a game we're definitely keeping our eye on to potentially produce content about. But
it is still completely under the radar right now. Basically, there's a lot of talk about it having hit the wall, run out of money, and probably not going to be released. There's a lot of that kind of talk amongst the interconnected dev community. The same thing happened with. The same thing's happened with dozens of other games, and it's kind of hitting that point now. So if we don't hear anything by them by probably like summer or post, you could probably count that game as never coming back, and probably being tied up in legal mumbo jumbo for the next foreseeable future. The only thing that can change that around is potentially Cyberpunk doing really, really, really well, and it kicking off this whole Cyberpunk craze where big studios will go hunting for games that they can capitalize on. So big publishers will go out, they'll buy, they'll spend whatever it takes to get their rights on System Shock to publish it, and then they'll put it out, a couple of years down the road. So,
Mark, I was gonna Google about System Shock 3 while Cy was talking there, but I'm having a technical problem. If anybody knows how to fix this, I would really appreciate it. Every now and then, randomly, my computer just does this thing where it's like the Alt button is stuck down, and I don't think it's my hardware because I've unplugged my peripherals, and the problem still happens. But I'm basically I'm working really hard here to not have to use my keyboard, because it'll literally start hitting hotkeys left and right if I do that, because my computer thinks the Alt button is being pressed. So if anybody knows how to fix that, it seems to be a Windows 10 issue, and I don't know. I'm at a loss. So anyway, I'm just trying to make it through to the end of the podcast here without having to use my keyboard, which is not the easiest thing in the world, but thankfully I had all the tabs open that I needed. But I wasn't able to Google anything about System Shock 3.
There's nothing there. As far as general news and info goes, there's nothing been added since some speculation stuff back in January. again, it's one of these things. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and please don't shoot the messenger. But the way that the game was handled and the way that they kind of burned through their financing really, really quickly, honestly, I will be surprised if that game manages to release, period.
Yeah.
I think they overshot what they were going to do. And this is why Patreon is so much better than the Kickstarters, and why you get so much content from Patreon style, not saying Patreon in general, because it turns out that they don't know how to run a company either. But as far as like the monthly, so what happens is that the creator puts out a game and puts out a build every couple of weeks, and you, the players and the supporters, get to see that progress and get to track that progress every 2 months or 3 months. You're getting an update to a build, and you can continue to support the game with $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, or more, or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely a far better system, because then you get to see exactly what's going on, and although it's a little bit more stressful, the developers get to see what they're working with, and it makes them better financially, because they have to look at the chart, they have to look at what they're making, and every month they have to make bill payments, and they have to decide whether or not they can continue to expand, or whether they need to tighten up, whether they need to focus down on getting out, 1 or 2 more pieces. It's a far better system, because it educates both the players, the supporters, and the because players and supporters are not the same thing. There's a ton of games. I play a lot of games, and this is where I get to meet and get to know a lot of people in the industry. Is I play a lot of these like small indie games that are usually being made by 1 or 2 guys who are also working at a game studio full time, but in the part time they're working on a passion project that they want to put out. And while they're doing this, they learn so much more. They're learning how to manage their company. They're learning how to manage their portfolio. They're learning how to manage their expectations. Learning how to deal with people. And it's this generation of game developers that are really going to push forward and change gaming overall, because these people know what they're doing. They're whether they stay as a developer, or whether they stay as a it doesn't matter. Whatever they're staying as, whatever they're doing, whatever they're focusing on, they're learning how to react. They're learning how to get through difficulties, and communicate well with people, and build things, and get things running, and get things moving in the right directions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really a good sign. It is a very, very good sign. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. To see how these kinds of things move forward. What that does mean is that these previous games that were done on Kickstarter, I don't think you like the fail ratio on those things are like 50%. 50% of them are never released. There's some of them, I think there's about 20% that never begin development. Now that's a scary thought. Think about that, guys. It's like 20% of the games that were promised, that were pitched, that raised the money that they were asking to raise, never even started serious development, period. There's a certain social media acolyte type person who made a promise to make a game. They raised money on their site, and then all they did with it was go out and make they went out and did a bunch of speaking events, and that was it. And they've sat back and they've made money basically as like a glorified social media person. And it's like, wow, that's disgusting. Wow, that's just so disgusting. Why would you, and so that's pretty terrible. Whereas you don't have that with Patreon. Patreon is like, you have to constantly be putting out good content, good content. You have to constantly be putting out content that is worthwhile for your supporters to consume. Otherwise, they're not going to get into it. So, anyways, moving on. We've got a rush here.
Yeah.
So that's basically so that kind of catches us up as far as the hard hitting big news. Now our big boy, the Outer Worlds.
The Outer Worlds, which HTK Gaming, you are once again far too generous. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, excited for this game. Actually says, exited for this game. I don't know where you're going. Sorry. Gotta pick on you for the little typo there, but thank you so much. Excited for this game. Hope you both are well. Sorry I'm late. LOL. Much love, boys. Well, we thank you. We really appreciate that. And
we do. It really helps.
Speaking of all this, I went to activate the membership thing on our channel. You know, that where it says you can join up beside the subscribe button there. I don't know how much interest there would be in that, but before it activates, YouTube tells me we have to offer a perk for members. And Saib and I were scratching our heads. What on earth can we offer you guys? For if you're interested in, you know, supporting the channel directly on YouTube, it's kind of a Patreon alternative. Let us know what we could offer that might interest you in doing that, because we're kind of scratching our heads looking for ideas. So if you have any ideas, drop a message on our Discord server there.
Now, one thing we thought about that, and I have been kind of muddling it through, and it's definitely off the table because after some serious thought, we decided it was just not a good idea. It was doing tasteful nudes. You know, those like nudes that aren't really nudes; they're just kind of like semi-nudes. You know, by a photographer in black and white usually, like on the bearskin rug or something like that. I'm referring to a Simpsons episode, if you don't know the joke here.
I was like, where was I for this conversation?
Definitely not doing that. So I know that's going to disappoint some people, but overall, I think that's probably a better move. That Simpsons episode, I don't know why I remember. It was so long ago, but it's like Homer gets this, like he wins this contest, and so he does these, like, again, it's like it's not actual like nudes, but it's like you know, the person's nude, it's just everything is covered up by placement of objects, and the photographer in that, it's one of the best animations that I've ever seen. She was, you know, she's taking these pictures, she's disgusted, but she's still doing her job well. And the look on her face of just like, you know, just this she's horrified, but she's doing these pictures and then they show the pictures, which again, it's like there's nothing there, it's just tastefully, you know, quote unquote tastefully done. And yeah, the funny stuff that you get to see from that. So
HTK is blaming autocorrect. Okay, we'll believe you. No interest in a Triple S League calendar? Oh, it's too bad. Okay, I guess we're back to the drawing board on that. All right, so The Outer Worlds, which is our cover story today. Sorry, we kind of we took a long time discussing that other stuff, but on to the
lots of stuff that kind of just came up more or less off the top. And I didn't really talk that much about Division 2 as much as I probably should have. The only other thing I should probably add in that is that the weapon system has been vastly improved, and you can really play what you want to play instead of being shoehorned into playing what, you know, is the quote-unquote top tier. So that's really, really good, and I like that. So anyways, back on to...
Yeah, so The Outer Worlds. So Game Informer got some exclusive access to the studio there at Obsidian, and they got exclusive access to the game, and they're going to be dropping stuff all through the next month. They've got, if you go to their website, they have a hub for all the information that they're dropping, and they're dumping truckloads of information every day, so we have been, of course, scrambling through that. The only thing I haven't been able to do was I haven't had time to listen through their Game Informer show, like the podcast they do, where they talk about it. They talked about it quite a bit there, but I've watched everything else. Lots of interviews with Leonard Boyarsky and Tim Kaine, the co-directors of the game, who are also the creators of Fallout, the original creators of Fallout. If you're not familiar with that, this game is being made by the original creators of Fallout before the IP was bought by Bethesda. So, potato, you know. So we're going to go through our top 10 bits of information, top 10 important things to know about The Outer Worlds. This is new information from the past few days. We're going to talk about some other stuff too. There's going to be more than 10 bits of information here, but we've got our top 10 bits of information that we're going to share with you all. And a lot of this came from a rapid-fire interview that Game Informer did with Leonard Boyarsky and Tim Kaine. and that interview was very funny. I recommend watching it if you are so inclined. But we've distilled that and some of the other info they've dropped down into some bite-sized pieces here. So let's jump into it. Point number 1: microtransactions. Hell no.
Yeah, hell no.
That was the direct response from the guys when Game Informer asked them about microtransactions. So no,
I am buying the collector's edition just because of that. Just because they went out to say, hell no, we're not doing microtransactions. They suck. They're stupid, and we're not doing it. We're making good games. Instant. Well, I'm excited for the company, and I know a lot of people that work there, and yeah, instantly going to support this game full throttle. So yes, 100%.
All right, important point number 2. They say that the acquisition of Obsidian by Microsoft has not really affected the game at all, and so has definitely not negatively affected how the game is progressing. So we don't have Microsoft coming down on them saying you have to put microtransactions in, obviously, but yeah, according to them, it's just kind of business as usual, and the game is progressing in the direction of their original vision for it, which is not surprising considering the game was most of the way, like, it was well into development when Microsoft bought them.
Now, to expand on this, this is, for some people, this is like, wow, this is new. It's not new. Microsoft has gone out of their way to find and to focus on building good games. This is the primary first goal for the next foreseeable future. They want to make this game solid, period. They want to make all their games solid. They want to make good games because they understand that in order to get back into that number 1 position, they have to stop playing tricks. They have to just make the best games, the most accessible games that they can, and put them out as much as possible. That they're not going to be playing around, that they're not going to be yanking anybody's chains, that they're not going to be playing around with, really dumb, stupid, disgusting microtransactions, all that kind of stuff. They're just not doing that. They're focusing solely on working on putting out a good, happy, best product that they can possibly put out. This is doing so to save the Xbox. Without this choice, the Xbox would have been canceled. They would not be making more consoles. It was really, really close. We almost lost the console as a whole due to the horrendous decisions made by a couple of absolute idiots in control. Thankfully, as the studio has pretty much learned its lesson, and they've realized that in order to do well, they need to actually go out of their way and work on making a good product, a good game. And that in order to do so, they're not going to be pulling any punches. They're not going to be stepping on toes. If you remember back to the Scalebound issue, they're not going to be trying to control, trying to micromanage these studios. That the studios themselves are going to be built off of nothing but the best that they can offer, period.
I want to take a screenshot of our chat right now and send it to the executives at EA, because as soon as we start talking about there's no microtransactions and Microsoft's not meddling with the game, we've got like 3 people saying, I want the pre-order button to go live so I can buy it right now. And like you wanted to buy the collector's edition if there is one. And intermixed with all that is Notional talking about how the Apex servers suck. How Origin just crashed. Oh, this is hilarious. You cannot script this kind of thing. But that's fantastic, and absolutely, I'm super excited that that Microsoft is letting them go in their own direction, but also that they have this extra money for working on future games, and that there's not going to be microtransactions. And the disgust in the guys when he was like, "Hell no, there's not going to be microtransactions." It was like a genuine no, why would we do that to our game?
Yeah. And so this is really great news. This is solid news, and we knew it a while ago, but being this being reiterated again, it's worthwhile reiterating that this game is not going to suffer from the same problems that it has suffered from before. This game is going to be a solid, solid game and is going to be great and is going to be well taken care of. As a studio, they're going to be taken care of. Now that brings us to the next thing, which is 20% of the current team worked on Fallout New Vegas and 3% worked on the original Fallouts. Now, there was a YouTuber recently who reacted to this by saying, "Oh, see, Obsidian has really failed and they've lost like 80% of their team." No, they've actually hired a lot of new people. Some people have left since they created New Vegas, and that's just unavoidable. But those are a lot of the core people. How many of the people there have worked on the original Fallout game? 3%, and that's on the original Fallout. So Fallout 1 and Fallout 2.
Mm-hmm. So that would include Leonard and Tim.
And I think that includes I think one or two other people at the company as well. So.
HCK has a question. With Microsoft funding them late in development, we know they couldn't do everything they wanted. Does this mean their games down the line will be AAA funded so that they can really go all in? And that would make sense. Yeah, down the road they've made it clear that that The Outer Worlds it was not a AAA funded game, and so
no, they're
a little worried. They talked about in one of the interviews. They're worried about people thinking it's going to be something that it's not.
Yeah, and we've tried to encourage this again and again and again. This game is not built to be a direct competitor to Red Dead Redemption 2. It can't, because it's Red Dead Redemption 2. They poured almost $500 million into developing that game. This they poured in, I think it was about $2 million into this game, because that's basically all they had. Mm-hmm. So just bear that in mind. The major funding from Microsoft did not kick in to the development of The Outer Worlds. It has kicked in a little bit right now, and
it'll definitely help them with their marketing.
Yes. And this brings us to a couple other things that are on this list, is because when they announced this, they did not expect the huge buzz that it got. They did not. They were expecting this to be a minor notice. But because of the way and the timing and the way that everything kind of kicked off at the same time and the same moment, this has brought them an enormous amount of attention. And now they're like, okay, please remember that this game is built on a shoestring budget. We barely were able to make this thing as is. We had to cut out a lot of features that we wanted. Some features we're planning on putting back in, and we'll get to that one right away. But this is not going to be the size of
in terms of size, 2. which HDK Gaming
is the next one,
is asking about. Well, that just happens to be the next point on our list here. It's roughly, according to the two guys, I can't remember which one said it, but roughly comparable in size to Knights of the Old Republic 2. Mm-hmm. And so he was hesitant to give a number of hours to play it because, he said it really depends how you play, how much you focus on side quests, how much you explore, obviously. But he said he estimates it's about the size of KOTOR 2, but they're also aiming for a high level of replayability. So they want to make a game where people will go back in and try different things and, see what happens if they do things differently.
Yeah, and that high level of replayability is what's going to make this game really, really good, on top of being a fan favorite as far as the story, because you start the game on an easy difficulty or a medium difficulty, then go to the next higher difficulty, and then try the game on the what they call it, the super
it's
hard
nightmare difficulty or something.
No, it's called super something. The super level difficulty is where companions, if they go down, they're dead. They're permanently dead. It's super, super difficult and super, super hard. Mm-hmm. It's going to be good. I shouldn't say too much. So yeah, overall, it's expect expect this game to be very, very good. Do not expect this game to be a carbon copy of either Fallout 4 or Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not either of those things. It's its own thing, and the engine is fairly restrictive in certain aspects, especially when it comes to like the roleplay side of things. There is a lot of restrictions that come into play there, and it's gonna be noticeably different. Different doesn't mean worse; it just means different than than Skyrim or Fallout 4 or New Vegas. Even though it's trying to be the spiritual successor to especially New Vegas, and that if they're able to make a next game, if this one sells like just bonkers, there's a good chance that Microsoft will move immediately into putting them onto developing the second one, instead of developing this other project that they have lined up for them at the moment here. So there's just kind of like they're putting this thing out the door, then they have another project that they've been working on for a while, and that's the one that's more or less tied into Microsoft, and then they've got some other stuff on the go, but that can all change depending on the success of this game. If this game is super, super successful, then they will look into doing a deeper, bigger version of it, fairly following up. But it depends. There's a lot of things there's a lot of variables at play that you have to remember and that you really have to keep your eye on. Yeah. So yeah, we'll kind of.
And it's it's supernova difficulty. Thank you to the boys in chat there giving us that info. Nightmare. Yeah. That's Doom. I don't know where I got that from. Well, I do know because I was just watching some Doom speedruns, so that's why I had that stuck in my head. Yeah. But yeah, so KOTOR was generally 35 to 45 hours. That is pretty decent if if it takes that long to beat. Plus, you count replayability on top of that. But one thing that they're worried about is some people are assuming that this is going to be a big sandbox world where you can go anywhere on any planet and do everything, and it's not quite that open. Like it's not.
It's open. It's more like if you played KOTOR 1 and 2, expect more like that. Expect basically these like themed locations that you can go to. There's a limit. It is kind of sort of an openish world, but you will eventually run out of things to do there other than just kill respawning enemies and stuff.
So it's going to be more about following the story and making different, like replaying it, making different choices in the story, maybe trying a different style of character, that kind of a thing, and exploring the world that way. I think exploring the different story threads is going to be one of the more fascinating elements of the game.
Yeah.
As we talked about a week ago or so, the companions can die. Anybody in the game can be killed, any character in the game, including potential companions. And speaking of which, they confirmed you definitely can beat the game if you kill everybody in the game. Somehow they know that. They're not certain if you're able to beat the game without killing anyone, but it's possible.
I think it's one of those things that is on their list, but it takes a lot. There's a certain level of stuff that you have to do in order to be able to come out with that, and so yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think it's on their wish list of things that they want to do, that they are wishing to complete. So yeah, yeah, it's there.
And regarding character customization, there's going to be deep character customization. The character creation sort of screen, I guess, or mechanic or whatever it is going to be rather entertaining. It's basically going to be structured like you are cycling through a bunch of different characters that are frozen in cryopods, when you have Rick from Rick and Morty commenting as you do. The scientist guy who looks like Rick from Rick and Morty. His name is actually Phineas, but a lot of people are calling him Rick. So there's going to be customization of appearance. There's going to be sliders for different attributes there, but it's a classless RPG, so you don't pick a class. You pick attributes it would. I'm not 100% certain how it's all going to balance out, but you are going to pick some attributes. You are putting points into attributes right away, but also as you go, things are going to improve based on what you do.
Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of like role play systems that they put into the game, so that'll be really exciting to see how that like really fits in. There is attributes, there is a way that you kind of build your character, so this is going to be really interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So
as deep as we saw in 2077 or Skyrim, good question. I mean, we haven't seen it yet, so we don't really know. But I imagine it's going to be fairly. I mean, both of those are class-based, so it's hard to make a one-to-one comparison. This one's going to be, you can kind of just pick whatever skills you want and just go from there. You're not picking a class right off the bat. Yeah, did you pull out anything else about the class, about the cut character system that you wanted to talk about there?
Not that I can talk about.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Yeah, so we'll move on. So there's no power armor in the game, but there is really cool looking heavy armor in the game. So again, it's like that takes there's a lot of additional programming that goes into like, you know, a power armor thing. There's so many bugs. I mean they haven't even killed all the bugs in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 with the power armor, and they've had that system functioning for like 5 years now. So it's a very difficult thing to add in. Small studio is going to have issues with getting that to work right.
But apparently they do have a very cool looking heavy armor.
Yeah.
Catriox, yes, there's also the flaws system, which we've talked about before, but you basically, it's kind of like the traits system from earlier Fallout games, where you take on attributes that have both a positive benefit and a negative consequence as well. Like there's some phobias, and you might get a weakness against a certain type of enemy, that kind of a thing. So, and that, I believe, will depend on the interactions in the game.
Yeah, the flaws in the game are based off of there's a couple of flaws that you can get. You can only get, I think, 6 of them in the hardest.
Yeah, difficulty. There's a maximum number you can get. Yeah.
So you kind of mix and match with them, and that's good because I really don't like these games where it's like they put out the game and they put out, you know, you can max everything out. It's like you that's not good, because then everybody's the same character at the end of the game, and it's only at the beginning of the game where everybody's a little bit different. It's like, no, I really don't like that system. In order for a game to be good, everybody has to be different all the way through the playthrough. Yeah, I think I repeated that one. So which one are we on? Are we on 8?
So we talked about the how you can kill everyone. So on the hardest difficulty, your companions can die permanently. We mentioned that before, but that just it goes to show how flexible the story is. Your companions can die, like you could kill them if you want, or they can, if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, they can just die in combat and be gone. So that if you really want a challenge, you really want an interesting story experience, kind of, it almost sounds like this is going to be an Iron Man mode. This hardest difficulty, the Supernova.
Yeah, I suspect that's what we're gonna get. So, it's like an Iron Man, but it'll be really interesting to see how it pans out with the roleplay system too, added into that.
And on that note, I'll just jump to 10 here. There's going to be lots of endings. That was their exact response into how many endings there's going to be. Lots. So we don't know how many, but there's
modding. We kind of brushed on it, but yeah, modding for sure is something that they've moved up because of the fan feedback, because of the community involvement. They are planning now to bump that up as something that they had put off on the docket, saying, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to do this, to them saying now 100% that post-launch that this is going to be one of their key things. Again, it may or may not come to pass depending on some issues. There's some licensing issues that they run into with the engine that they're using and some other stuff. But they're quite confident now that they're going to be able to work through that, and that they're going to be able to deliver a modding experience and tools to do so, and that this is definitely going to be on the docket for post-release, and that they're going to be putting a lot of effort and energy into this. So yeah, that's great news, absolutely great news, because modding is what makes these types of games last a really long time. And if they can pull it off right, if they could pull it off in such a way where they can get modding working on the consoles, and they really approach it from a good direction, we certainly could see them usurping Bethesda in this regard, and definitely like taking the proper position over. Now there is some, like I said, there's a lot of issues that they're going to run into with the engine. It's not that easy. It's not just something that you can copy paste and do from like the way that Fallout or the way that Fallout 4 and Skyrim work. There's a lot of things that they're going to run into that are going to cause some pretty significant issues. However, they believe that they can work past those, and they can work past those to the point where they're able to basically say, yes, this is now on the docket. And again, it's because the community has been so vocal and has been so encouraging in a positive way, saying, look, we think we can help, like, we think we really can help you. Let us make this game even better with you. Let us help you even more. So yeah, that's looking really solid. Yeah.
And finally, Tim Kaine gave his personal guarantee that this game is coming out in 2019.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that delaying it beyond that is just not an option. But I mean, so those are some of the key things we pulled up, but there's tons more information we can talk about here that's just come out over the past few days, and they've got an entire month of this planned. So that's really exciting.
So we're going to be having a lot of updates. There's a good chance that we might be doing some updates here or there, depending on the type of news that we can get. We muster up anything that internal that we can report on. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be good. I'm really excited for this overall. I'm so glad that we have this on the docket. I was thinking that this year was going to be really, really terrible with only like one or two really truly good games out there, and it looks like we've got this definitely came out of nowhere from what we were expecting from like a year ago. So yeah, this is good.
Should we talk about the story a bit, because there's some story details that have come out?
Yeah, if you got time for it, sure.
Yeah, I don't have to run off like I usually do today. So, but I mean, we won't go too deep into this. But it's an alternate history of Earth. So it's an alternate universe or alternate timeline, where whatever you wanna call it. It's of course got corporations that create big monopolies. So there's going to be that whole aspect of it. Almost a cyberpunk-ish kind of mega corporations. Kind of scenario. I mean, it's not cyberpunk, but basically, the big corporations that run everything. So the story is basically that in the future, humans start a program to colonize deep space, and they've got some habitable worlds out there, and corporations are buying up the land and trying to monopolize as they do. So an initial wave of colonists was sent out, with a second wave to follow. And the second wave of colonists was basically abandoned and left parked in orbit above one of the planets, with everybody just frozen. And that's where you start. That's where you're woken up by the scientist dude. And you are one of these second wave colonists. And so by the time you wake up, the world is partially colonized. And that's the world that you're stepping into.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about it, would you want to wake up a whole pack of bureaucrats and rich people and that kind of stuff to come in and usurp the control that you just spent several years pouring your heart and soul into? So yeah.
So you can pick. You're able to pick your background and abilities as a character. You can have select aptitudes. Out of basically the second wave of colonists was supposed to fulfill specific roles in society, and you can pick from those roles as sort of your character direction. And then yeah, I was reading from bullet points in one of these articles here. Lots of cool things here. You can spy for the government or against the government, or do a mixture of both. Each companion will have its own quest line. So there's companion side quests. Flaws will give you a negative effect that lasts throughout the game, but you'll get more perks from them. There's different weapons corporations in the game, and each, so there's tons of brands of weapons, and apparently some sort of virtual brand loyalty thing that affects the game. Anyway, tons and tons and tons of information. Really exciting stuff. I really want this game. Looks like you all do too. Black Hand says, "Why is this not open world?" Well, it's likely due to
it's
semi-open world, but they weren't. I mean, they didn't have Microsoft money, as we said. Before this, they were making this game before they were bought out by Microsoft. They just didn't have the resources to make a full-on like sort of AAA open world game. It's semi-open world. You've got a lot of freedom, but there are some boundaries as well.
Yeah. So the
factions as well. Yeah, that's right, Katriox.
Yeah. The faction system is going to be pretty cool, because the faction system that was in that sounded like fun. The faction system that was involved in the original New Vegas game was like really solid. Like, you just didn't get that experience. You just don't get that experience. These like with these new games, and it's so good to see. It's so good to see that they've been working on this stuff, and that it's going to be so good when it comes out. So yeah, that faction system, again, it's like, yeah, it might not be perfect at release, but it's definitely going to be solid. So I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can't wait for this game. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be exciting. We're definitely going to be covering this one on our channel quite a bit, and
I can't wait to get like solidly into it. It's going to be so solid.
Looks like you all are as well, and that's great to see. So anyway, on that note, we're going to wrap up the Augmented Reality podcast for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Before you go, don't forget to slam that like button. That really helps us out.
We're going to be doing... I'm going to be streaming. Apparently, they fixed some of the crashing issues, so if you want to hop over, I'm going to be streaming for the next hour or two. I'm going to be streaming some Dark Zone stuff in Division 2 in about 15 minutes on our Twitch channel.
Right on. All right, so check that out. Twitch.tv/triple_S_league. Saib's going to be streaming the Division 2 beta, so definitely check that out if you're interested in that game. Thank you, everybody, for supporting this show, for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Old Man Manson, and our 2 anonymous supporters, to HDK Gaming for the very generous super chat. We really appreciate that, and we also appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes. That helps our channel out a lot. And if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud or iTunes or Spotify, thank you for subscribing, reviewing the show. Bear in mind, it takes us a couple of days to get the podcast up on the audio platform, so if you want the latest info sooner, we recommend you check out the Triple S League YouTube channel. You can find the link in the descriptions there. And feel free to join us on this coming Tuesday at noon Pacific Time or 3 p.m. Eastern Time for the live show, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the program. The Augmented Reality podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Actioninity. On behalf of Subsidian, thank you so much for listening. This has been a great show today. Had a lot of fun. I will talk to you all next week.